So what if you could access up to like $350,000 in capital for your business or maybe your investment in just 90 to 120 days? And doing all of that without ever, stepping foot inside a bank to actually ask for a traditional loan.
I mean, honestly, it sounds exactly like the pitch for one of those late night infomercials.
Oh,
Or, the start of a very, very expensive mistake.
it really does. But we are actually looking at a perfectly legal financial strategy today. We're doing a deep dive into this massive 2026 guide called Which Credit Card Stacking Programs Actually Pay?
Right, the one by Troy Johnston.
Yeah, from stackeasy.ai.
Hmm.
So the mission today is to kind of cut through this whole wild west of online financial gurus and figure out if, ordinary people can actually extract hundreds of thousands of dollars from mainstream banks.
Without collateral, which is the wild part.
Exactly. Or we're going to figure out if this entire online industry is just another guru scam.
Well, to even have this conversation, I think we need to draw a pretty hard line in the sand regarding terminology. Because people constantly conflate what we're looking at today with credit card churning.
Oh, yeah. They get mixed up all the time.
They do, and they are fundamentally different games, even though they're played with the exact same pieces of plastic.
Right, because churning is like the points game. Opening a card, hitting the minimum spend requirement, grabbing, say, 75,000 travel miles to fund a trip to Bali, and then just tossing the card in a drawer.
Exactly. Churners are really optimizing for consumer rewards. But credit stacking, on the other hand, is the intentional accumulation of 0% APR credit lines to use as actual working capital.
So it's about cash flow, really.
It is. You're optimizing for liquidity. You use it to fund a startup, maybe buy real estate, or just bridge a cash flow gap. You are intentionally carrying a balance, which is like the cardinal sin of churning, right?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
But you're doing it at 0% interest to create leverage.
Okay, so, if credit churning is essentially collecting frequent flyer miles for a free vacation, then credit stacking is kind of like building a factory using someone else's zero-interest money.
That is the perfect way to visualize it, yeah. Stacking is basically about bypassing traditional commercial lending, because usually that requires years of tax returns, and hard assets for collateral.
Right, the bank wants to know they can take your house if you fail.
Exactly. But this replaces all of that with unsecured personal guarantees.
So let's look at the actual raw materials required to build this factory, because Johnston's 2026 blueprint outlines 3 specific credit products that are consistently paying out massive limits right now.
And honestly, it is wild that these aren't obscure Tier 3 regional banks.
No, not at all. We're talking about the largest financial institutions in the world just aggressively extending this paper. Let's start with the Chase Inc. Business Preferred.
Okay, yeah, that's a big one.
The data in the guide shows Chase is approving applicants with personal credit scores as low as 680, and they're handing out limits between $25,000 and $75,000.
Yeah.
Plus, you get like 3x points on travel and shipping.
See, a 680 FICO score is decidedly average. I mean, it is nowhere near that pristine 800-plus tier most people assume you need for high-limit business funding.
Wait, really? Because I always thought you needed basically perfect credit for those limits.
Most people do. But what that tells us fundamentally is that Chase's risk algorithms are currently prioritizing small business acquisition over, stringent credit perfection.
They just want the customers.
Right. They are banking on the lifetime value of a business checking and merchant services relationship. They figure that outweighs the default risk of a $50,000 unsecured line.
Wow, okay. And then you have the American Express Business Platinum. Now, the threshold here shifts slightly, right? Amex wants to see established business revenue.
Yes, that's a key difference.
But when you can prove cash flow, they're extending anywhere from $50,000 to $150,000 in purchasing power. Plus, they throw in a 75,000-point welcome bonus, which the blueprint values in around $11,125. But requiring established revenue seems like, I don't know, a pretty broad metric.
Well, Amex is fundamentally a charge card network, not a traditional revolving debt lender. I mean, though they have blurred those lines a bit recently.
Right.
Their underwriting model is heavily weighted toward transaction volume. They really just want to see money moving through your business accounts.
So it's about the swipe fees.
Exactly. If you can demonstrate consistent monthly deposits, their algorithm views you as a high-volume transactor, which is their core revenue model.
Right.
The $150,000 limit is essentially them greasing the wheel, so you push all your operational spending through their network.
That makes total sense. And to round out the initial stack, the strategy adds the Capital One Spark business. This one tacks on another $15,000 to $75,000.
And that one is great for beginners too.
Yeah, the blueprint specifically notes this product has highly automated, straightforward approval criteria that's basically tailored for brand new entities. So if you sequence these three correctly, you are staring at up to $350,000 in potential new credit.
Which is life-changing capital for a new business.
It is. But let's get into the mechanics of the application process itself, because this is where the strategy seems to defy the basic laws of credit reporting.
Okay, here we go.
Right, because we know that rapid, consecutive hard inquiries will trigger an algorithm to flag you as a default risk and completely tank your score.
Oh, absolutely.
So if I'm the listener, my biggest fear is, won't applying for all this at once just ruin my credit? How is the application sequencing structured to blind the bureaus from seeing each other's inquiries in real time?
So this is the pro tip. It really comes down to understanding that the three major credit bureaus, Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion, they operate as completely independent data silos. They do not share inquiry data with each other instantaneously. When you apply for credit, the bank pulls your report from one, maybe two of those silos.
So you're basically exploiting the lack of communication between the bureaus.
You're managing the flow of information. I mean, if a single bureau sees 3 inquiries in a 48-hour window, your velocity of credit metric spikes. The algorithm flags you as desperate for liquidity, and you just get automatic denials cascading down.
Right, because you look like you're panicking for cash.
Exactly. However, banks have predictable habits. Chase might heavily favor pulling from Experian in your particular state. Capital One might routinely pull from Equifax.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. By strategically routing your applications to different issuers on the exact same day, you isolate those hard inquiries. To Experian, you only ask for one card. To Equifax, you only ask for one card. You keep the velocity metric essentially invisible to the individual algorithms.
Man, which perfectly explains why people treat this like insider knowledge.
Yeah, it feels like a secret code.
It does. But, if the blueprint is just a matter of matching specific banks to specific credit bureaus based on your zip code, why is there a massive cottage industry of gurus charging thousands of dollars to teach it? I mean, can't we just figure it out ourselves? The information has to be available for free.
Oh, it absolutely is available for free. There is a very robust community of creators mapping out these algorithmic tendencies in real time.
Okay, so where do people look?
Well, the blueprint highlights Adam Jusko from the channel Proud Money as one of the most reliable data points. Reddit loves him. He provides highly detailed, completely hype-free breakdowns of exact underwriting criteria.
But I mean, I have to challenge the total objectivity there.
Fair enough.
Because Jusko's channel, like almost all of them in this space, is ad-supported and relies heavily on affiliate links, right?
Right.
Doesn't that create an inherent bias? If a creator is making a commission every time a viewer clicks through and gets approved, aren't they financially incentivized to push the cards that pay the highest commission rather than the optimal card for the viewer's specific stacking sequence?
That is a completely fair critique of the entire personal finance media space, honestly. Affiliate commissions absolutely shape coverage.
Yeah, it's hard to avoid.
But the defense in Jusko's case, and others like Sebastian Fung, who runs Ask Sebi, is that their long-term credibility is way more valuable than a short-term affiliate payout.
Oh, right. Ask Sebi. He's very analytical.
Very. Fung, for instance, literally opens his own massive portfolio to the audience, showing the exact cards he holds and the analytical math behind his application timing. If he pushes a high commission card that structurally damages his viewers' credit profiles, well, his audience just evaporates.
Yeah, the trust is gone. And Fung's approach is deeply technical, which is great for understanding the bank's internal rules.
And there's also Mark Reese. He's been around since like 2013. Uses highly visual PowerPoint presentations to map out spending optimization.
Okay, so the data is out there. You can triangulate the affiliate biases, study the underwriting criteria, and execute a stack yourself for free.
You can.
But the moment you start searching for this information, the algorithms are going to flood your feeds with the dark side of this industry. It's like walking through a minefield.
Oh, absolutely. The barrier to entry for selling financial advice online is zero. And when you are dealing with people who urgently need capital, the marketing gets incredibly aggressive.
Yeah, so let's talk about the specific mechanics of that murky side. The blueprint isolates David Ramirez and his Trade Line Secrets program as an example of what to watch out for.
Right, the trade line stuff.
Yeah, Ramirez claims to secure over $1 million in funding without showing tax returns, and he does this by heavily pushing the concept of trade lines. Break down the mechanical flaw there for me. Why does piggybacking on someone else's credit fail under modern scrutiny?
Well, the concept of an authorized user trade line relies on an old loophole that banks have largely closed. Historically, if I had a credit card with a flawless 10-year payment history and a $50,000 limit, I could just add you as an authorized user.
Okay.
My pristine history would magically appear on your credit report, artificially inflating your score so you could go apply for your own loans.
So it's essentially renting someone else's financial reputation.
Precisely. But the current generation of FICO scoring models, and more importantly, the internal underwriting algorithms at banks like Chase and Amex, they are sophisticated enough to strip out authorized user data now.
Oh, so they see right through it.
Yeah. If the primary account holder's last name and residential address do not match yours, the algorithm heavily discounts or just entirely ignores that trade line.
Wait, really? So it does nothing?
Pretty much. I mean, you might see a temporary bump on a consumer credit monitoring app, but the bank's internal system ignores it. You rack up BBB complaints, you pay thousands of dollars to rent a trade line, and it yields zero actual lending power.
Wow. Okay, so if the free route requires treating application sequencing like a part-time job, and the GUI space is littered with outdated trade line tricks, we have to look at the legitimate paid paths.
Right. The ones that actually deliver value.
What are you actually buying when you pay for structured stacking programs?
Yeah.
Because the pricing spectrum is massive, right? From $27 to almost $4,000.
Yeah. You are basically buying varying degrees of operational leverage. At the absolute entry level, you have options like the Creditpreneur community. It operates on a platform called School and costs $27 a month.
$27 is basically the cost of a few coffees. What is the actual utility there?
The utility is crowdsourced data. They teach a triple threat approach, but mostly you get access to a community of hundreds of other people actively applying for cards.
Oh, so you can see what's working right now.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You can see real-time data points on which banks are pulling which bureaus in which states this specific week. It is the lowest risk way to verify the current underwriting environment before you submit your own applications.
Okay, that makes sense for beginners. Then you move up to what I would call the repair stage.
Yeah.
Programs like Credit Rehab Pro, run by NameWin. This isn't even stacking yet. This is purely about algorithmic optimization.
Right, because if your utilization is maxed out, or you have a derogatory mark from 3 years ago, applying for a Chase Inc. Preferred is just a waste of a hard inquiry.
You won't get approved anyway.
Exactly. Programs at this tier provide legal and administrative frameworks to dispute inaccuracies, negotiate pay-for-delete agreements, and manipulate statement closing dates to force your reported utilization down to optimal levels before you ever begin the stacking sequence.
Okay, but let's jump to the heavy hitters, because this is where the math gets highly controversial. We're talking about concierge services. Companies like Fund and Grow, which charges an upfront fee of nearly $3,997.
Or a performance fee model.
Right, like Cameron Gates Go Credit Pros.
Yeah.
That's a veteran-owned outfit that secures massive limits. We're talking $85,000 to $175,000, but operates on an 8% performance fee model.
They do the heavy lifting for you.
But let's really pull that apart. Is handing over 8% of your newly acquired credit limit a massive ripoff? Or is it actually a genius move? Because taking an 8% haircut sounds borderline predatory. If they get me $100,000, I owe them $8,000 immediately. I am paying borrowed money to access borrowed money.
I know, it sounds structurally absurd until you compare it to the traditional cost of commercial capital.
Okay, give me an example.
Let's say you are an active real estate investor flipping properties. If you go to a hard money lender for that same $100,000, you're generally paying 12 to 15% annualized interest, plus 2 to 3 points in origination fees up front. And that loan is secured by the asset.
So a hard money loan costs you $3,000 just to open the door, plus over $1,000 a month in interest payments.
Exactly. Now look at the 8% concierge fee. Yes, $8,000 is a steep upfront cost, but that capital is at 0% interest for the next 12 to 18 months, and it is entirely unsecured.
Oh, I see the math now.
Right. If you have a high-margin business model with an immediate deployment strategy, say buying discounted e-commerce inventory that turns over in 60 days, paying a one-time 8% fee for 18 months of 0% liquidity is mathematically far superior to traditional commercial lending.
But the key phrase there is immediate deployment strategy.
Yeah.
Because if you are paying an $8,000 fee just to have $100,000 sitting in a checking account while you try to figure out what business to start, you are bleeding capital.
Oh, it is financial suicide. The performance fee model only makes sense for established operators who value their time over their money, really. They are paying to outsource the manual labor.
Right.
Sequencing applications, filing the EIN paperwork, calling the reconsideration lines when an algorithm kicks back an automatic denial, that is a tedious administrative burden. If your time is worth $500 an hour, spending 40 hours navigating credit bureaus is a negative ROI activity.
Right.
You pay the 8% to have an expert hand you a fully funded stack.
Okay, so let's say the stack is fully funded. You took the free advice or you bought the course. The applications are approved, the cards arrive in the mail. Boom, you have $150,000 in zero interest credit. You won, right?
Not exactly.
Right, because this brings us to a phase that almost nobody on YouTube seems to focus on. And it is easily the most dangerous part of the entire strategy. You now have $150,000 spread across maybe 8 different cards.
Yeah, the acquisition phase is over. The management trap begins.
And the management phase is basically logistics. I mean, managing a growing stack of 15-plus credit cards on a basic spreadsheet is like juggling flaming chainsaws.
That is a great analogy.
It is not a matter of if you will make a mistake. It's
No.
just a matter of when you drop one, right? Like missing a 0% APR expiration window, and then you instantly lose thousands of dollars in interest.
Exactly. Getting the cards is only half the battle. When you have 8 to 15 open lines of credit, you are suddenly tracking 15 distinct billing cycles.
Ugh, that sounds like a nightmare.
It is. You have varying 0% promotional windows. Some expire in 9 months, some in 12, some in 15. You have different minimum payment due dates, different rewards categories, and you have different statement closing dates.
And missing a statement closing date while trying to move capital around is how you trigger the deferred interest trap, right?
That is the exact mechanism the banks are betting on. I mean, the business model of offering 15 months of 0% APR is entirely predicated on human error.
So they want you to mess up.
Basically, the data shows a significant percentage of borrowers will fail to liquidate the balance before the promotional window closes. When day 1 of month 16 hits, the interest rate doesn't just bump up to a modest 7%, it spikes to 24% or higher.
Wow.
And in many commercial card agreements, that interest can be applied retroactively to the original principal balance from day 1.
So if you leave, say, $40,000 sitting on a card one day past the promotional window, you could instantly be hit with thousands of dollars in capitalized interest.
Yeah, your cost of capital goes from 0 to crippling overnight.
Which perfectly explains the origin of the StackEasy platform. You know, Troy Johnston didn't build it just to track applications. He built it because he was trying to manage a massive stack of cards on an Excel spreadsheet and realized manual data entry was a massive liability.
Oh, spreadsheets fail. They are static. They do not interface with bank APIs. They don't send you an automated push notification when an APR window is exactly 45 days from expiring.
Right. You have to remember to check the spreadsheet.
Exactly. Tools like StackEasy or even credit health monitoring platforms like Dovely, they are required to monitor utilization in real time. They replace human memory with algorithmic tracking. They ensure you don't inadvertently cross a 30% utilization threshold on a specific card that might trigger a universal default clause across your other accounts.
So the programs give you the roadmap, but you still have to drive the car. If you do not have a 90-day liquidation strategy for the debt and a software system to track the exact expiration dates of every single dollar you borrow, you aren't credit stacking. You're just delaying a 25% APR trap.
You are playing a high-stakes game of musical chairs, and the banks control the music.
So, kind of wrapping everything up here, synthesizing what we've pulled from this blueprint, the core advice for the listener is clear. First, start small across different bureaus.
Right, protect your velocity of credit.
Exactly. And if you aren't sitting above a clean 680 FICO, you need to engage in the repair stage before you even think about applying. Second, use free resources like Pad Money if you're disciplined, but rigorously filter out the affiliate bias.
And if you need structure, consider paid communities.
Yeah, engage a low-cost community for that support. And if you are an established operator with immediate capital deployment needs, running the math on an 8% concierge fee might actually reveal it to be a genius move.
It could be the cheapest source of unsecured leverage available to you.
But the golden rule, above all else, is that you must have a bulletproof system for managing the cards once you get them. The true cost of 0% capital is the logistical overhead.
I agree completely. That is the micro-level strategy for the individual. But, the macro level implications of this blueprint are what I find truly fascinating.
Oh, where are you going with this?
Well, we are basically watching the normalization of shadow banking for the everyday entrepreneur.
Shadow banking. Explain what you mean by that in this context.
Credit stacking essentially allows regular people to completely bypass traditional commercial banking gatekeepers. They are accessing hundreds of thousands of dollars in institutional liquidity entirely on their own signature.
Right, without submitting business plans or pledging hard assets as collateral.
Exactly. They are essentially acting as their own unregulated hedge funds, using personal credit to lever up commercial operations.
Which democratizes access to capital? I mean, that sounds great on paper.
It does. But here's the lingering question we really have to ask. As this shadow banking method becomes increasingly systematized and widely adopted as the primary funding mechanism for new small businesses, what happens to the broader economy when we hit a macroeconomic contraction?
Oh, like a recession.
Right. If a recession hits, consumer spending drops, and thousands of these e-commerce stores and real estate flips suddenly stop generating cash flow, these entrepreneurs will miss those 0% expiration windows. They will miscalculate their risks.
And suddenly, you have a massive sector of the small business economy simultaneously hit with 25% interest rates on hundreds of thousands of dollars of unsecured debt.
Exactly. The banks will have to write off billions in unsecured defaults, which tightens lending standards for everyone else. We have to wonder if, by democratizing leverage, we are quietly building a fragile new tier of the American economy entirely on a house of plastic cards.
Wow, a house of plastic cards. When the factory fails, the banks are still going to come looking for their bricks. And if they can't find them, the whole system feels the shockwave. That is a heavy thought to leave you to ponder, but an essential one if you're considering stepping into this arena.
Yeah.
Make sure you understand the mechanics, respect the logistics, and always have an exit strategy. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Keep questioning the consensus, keep doing your own research, and we will catch you next time.